You think money is about numbers? You're wrong. It's about fear, ego, luck, greed, and how you were raised. This book doesn't teach you how to make millions. It teaches you how to think about money so you can actually keep it, grow it, and live a good life. I read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it changed how I see wealth, risk, and freedom. Stick around. By the end of this video, you won't just understand money better, you'll understand yourself better too. This isn't your typical finance book, is it? It's not about spreadsheets or stock picks. Not at all. It's about us, how we think about money, how our feelings, past experiences, and biases play a bigger role in financial success than IQ or formulas. To kick things off, the book uses a stark contrast. It tells the story of a brilliant executive who, in a fit of rage at a hotel restaurant, smashes a $500 lamp. When confronted by the manager, he throws $5,000 in cash and tells him to get lost. A few years later, he's completely broke. Then there's Ronald Read. His Wikipedia page lists him as a philanthropist, investor, janitor, and gas station attendant. First in his family to finish high school. He used to hitchhike to campus. No fancy degrees, no high-powered job, just a regular guy who, through simple, consistent habits, saved diligently and invested patiently, amassing an $8 million fortune and leaving most of it to charity. These stories challenge the idea that financial success is all about being smart. As the book says, a genius who loses control of their emotions can be a financial disaster, while an average person with discipline and patience can build incredible wealth. And behavior, that's the hard part. It's tough to teach even to really smart people. So in this deep dive, we'll unpack why financial success often depends more on behavior, emotion, and personal background than intellect. We're pulling insights from The Psychology of Money to help you understand not just the what of managing money, but the why. What's going on inside your head when making financial decisions? We'll explore how your personal history shapes your financial worldview, the outsized roles of luck and risk, and the importance of simply surviving long enough for good things to happen. We'll dive into the hidden cost of investment returns, why pessimism often sounds more credible than optimism, and how our goals change over time, disrupting long-term plans. Let's begin with the core premise. Behavior trumps brains. The story of that executive, smashing the lamp, throwing cash, wasn't just one bad day. It was a pattern. Poor emotional control, impulsive decisions. Despite his intelligence, he lacked self-management. In contrast, Ronald Read, the janitor, built wealth with patience, consistency, and living below his means. Doing well with money, the book argues, has less to do with intelligence and more to do with behavior. We often treat finance like physics, do X, get Y. But money is more like psychology, emotional, unpredictable, full of nuance. There are no universal formulas that apply equally to everyone. The author began exploring these ideas around the 2008 crisis, noticing that even experts couldn't agree on what happened or why. For every plausible explanation, there was an equally plausible counterargument. That's the messy, emotional reality of money. This leads into a huge idea. Our personal history massively influences how we see money. Your individual experience, a tiny sliver of global financial history, becomes your worldview, shaping 80% of how you think the world works. Two smart people can see the same economic data and come to totally different conclusions because they're viewing it through different historical lenses. Research backs this up. A 2006 study by economists Momendier and Nagel showed that people's willingness to take financial risk is almost entirely shaped by their personal experiences. Not IQ or education, but the dumb luck of when and where you were born. The book gives examples like Bill Gross, who thrived in a long-term bond market boom. For his generation, bonds were wealth creators. But his father's generation, having lived through inflationary periods, saw bonds as wealth destroyers. Or take inflation. Someone who grew up in the 1970s remembers high prices and gas lines. Someone born in 1990 has seen low, stable inflation. That shapes their view of economic stability. Unemployment rates vary drastically by demographic. In 2009, while the national average was 10%, for young African American men without a high school diploma, it was nearly 50%. For older, college-educated white women, it was around 4%. Vastly different economic realities. Globally, post-World War II stock market recoveries differed. The U.S. market boomed. In Germany and Japan, markets were wiped out. Different outcomes create different financial philosophies. That's why decisions that look crazy from the outside often make perfect sense to the person making them. Take lottery tickets. Americans spend more on them than on movies, music, sports, and books. The buyers are disproportionately low income. From a middle-class perspective, it seems irrational. But for someone feeling financially trapped, a lottery ticket might be the only moment they get to dream. It's buying hope. It challenges us to be more empathetic and less judgmental. Every financial decision someone makes checks the boxes they need to check, even if it looks irrational to others. Next, let's talk about luck and risk, siblings according to the book. Both represent the idea that outcomes are not entirely in our control, but we rarely talk about them. We resist acknowledging the role of luck in our success or risk in our failures. Bill Gates had a brilliant classmate, Ken Evans, who helped start their tech journey. Evans died in a mountaineering accident before Microsoft took off. Same intelligence, vastly different outcomes due to chance. Even Cornelius Vanderbilt succeeded partly because he disregarded the law. That same attitude could have ruined someone else. The line between bold and reckless is often only visible in hindsight. Benjamin Graham, father of value investing, built his fortune partly by betting big on Geico, a move that contradicted his own diversification principles. Was it genius or luck? Failure is also frequently misjudged. We often blame bad decisions, ignoring that risk means even smart choices can go wrong. We forgive ourselves for bad luck, but criticize others harshly for the same. The takeaway? When evaluating outcomes, our own or others, remember, it's never as good or as bad as it seems. Luck and risk play massive, invisible roles. This brings us to the power of patience, survival, and compounding. Housel says, if I had to summarize money success in one word, it would be survival. Not grand slams, just staying in the game. The Ice Age analogy is perfect. Ice ages weren't caused by brutal winters, but by slightly cooler summers where not all snow melted. That little leftover built up year after year. Small imbalances, compounded over time, created glaciers. Same with money. Compounding isn't about intensity. It's about time. Warren Buffett's true advantage? Longevity. He started investing young and kept going for over 70 years. Compare that to Jim Simons, a hedge fund manager with extraordinary annual returns. But since he started investing later in life, his net worth is much lower. Time matters more than rate of return. But to benefit from compounding, you must survive. Jesse Livermore made a fortune shorting the 1929 market. A few years later, he lost everything and took his life. Abraham Germansky, wiped out in the crash, may have done the same. Both were good at getting rich, not staying rich. Staying wealthy requires a different mindset than becoming wealthy. It's about avoiding ruin, not maximizing returns. That's why margin of safety is so important. Having room for error, buffers to absorb shocks. It compares it to blackjack. Even with a 2% edge, you can lose many times in a row. You need enough capital to endure bad streaks. And debt? Debt is the enemy of survival. It amplifies risk. In 2008, over-leveraged individuals and institutions weren't just hurt, they were destroyed. That's why Housel's own financial strategy includes a conservative portion to ensure survival no matter what. because the greatest investment returns don't matter if you're forced to sell at the worst time. Then there's the hidden cost of investment returns. It's not just dollars, it's volatility, doubt, fear, and regret. That discomfort is the price. Trying to get returns without it is like shoplifting, and it usually ends badly. Take Netflix stock. A 35,000% return between 2002 and 2018. But it spent 94% of the time below its previous high. Or Monster Beverage, up 319%, but under its prior high 95% of the time. That discomfort is the fee. Your options are pay it, settle for less, or try to cheat and end up paying more. Many companies try to dodge this cost too. GE under Jack Welch smoothened earnings by borrowing from future results. Eventually, the truth came out and shareholders paid the price. The same happened with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The lesson? Accept the volatility as the cost of doing business. Now, bubbles and social comparison. Bubbles aren't always about irrationality. Sometimes they're rational, just on a shorter timeline. Day traders in the dot-com era weren't thinking about 10-year value. They were playing the short-term momentum game. We judge them by our long-term investing lens, but they were playing a different game. That idea extends to social status. We don't admire the person in the Ferrari. We imagine ourselves being admired if we had the Ferrari. We buy things to signal success, but others just use it as a benchmark for their own desires. Wealth is what you don't see, the savings, the restraint. The Porsche driver might be broke. Ronald Reed, the janitor, was rich, invisibly. Define your own game. Know what money means to you. Once you have that clarity, the noise, market swings, other people's lifestyles, becomes irrelevant. Let's talk optimism versus pessimism. Pessimism sounds smarter. People listen when you predict doom. But optimism, the belief that over time progress wins, is more useful. Optimism isn't blind faith. It's knowing there will be setbacks, but believing in long-term improvement. Headlines favor negativity because disasters are sudden, but progress is slow. That's why we remember crashes and forget long-term recoveries. The invention of flight barely made headlines, but crashes do. Hundreds of thousands of lives saved from heart disease? Quiet. One sudden crisis? Everywhere. History provides context, but not a blueprint. The past isn't a perfect guide because the world changes. Strategies that worked 50 years ago may not work today. Even Benjamin Graham evolved his thinking. The biggest market moves usually come from surprises. That's why Kahneman's lesson matters. When surprised, the lesson isn't, "I'll never make that mistake again." It's, "The world is hard to predict." And finally, the end of history illusion. We assume the person we are now is who we'll always be, but we change. Our goals, values, and desires evolve, which makes rigid financial plans fragile. Better to build flexibility from the start, avoid extreme plans, balance ambition with the recognition that you'll grow and change. The book ends with a powerful synthesis. Less ego, more wealth. True wealth is the gap between what you earn and spend. Accept failure. A few big wins can outweigh lots of mistakes. Buy freedom. Use money to gain control of your time. Be kind, not flashy. Respect comes from character, not possessions. Just save. Save even without a goal. It buys options. Pay the price. Volatility is the cost of great returns. Build margin. Buffers protect you from the unknown. Avoid extremes. Your future self will thank you. The author lives these lessons. He keeps his lifestyle modest, even as income rises. He paid off his mortgage early, not for the math, but for peace of mind. He keeps extra cash, not to spend, but for psychological safety. Good decisions aren't always rational. They're personal. In the end, financial success is less about IQ and more about EQ, emotional intelligence.
Less about prediction, more about adaptability. Less about maximizing returns, more about staying in the game. So take a moment to reflect on your own money story. How have your experiences shaped you? Because understanding the psychology of money isn't just about handling money better, it's about understanding yourself. If this helped reshape your mindset, give it a like and subscribe. And remember, you don't need to be a genius to win with money. You just need to behave well and stay in the game.